The cry from the dumpster, it was cold and quiet near the spaceport. The streets were mostly empty, just trash flying in the wind. Humans and aliens once worked together here, but now, after the Great War, things had changed. Fear, hunger, and silence filled the air. Jack, a young human man in his late 20s, walked slowly down the alley behind the closed shops. He wasn't rich. In fact, he was jobless, just another forgotten soul living in the ruined outer zone of the city. But today, something pulled him to this alley. He didn't know why. As he walked past the large dumpsters, he suddenly stopped. He heard something. A sound. A soft cry. Not a cat. Not a machine. It sounded like a baby. Jack's heart raced. He moved closer to the dumpster. The cry became louder but weak, almost like someone too tired to call for help. He lifted the heavy lid. A foul smell hit his nose. Rotten food, plastic, broken metal parts, but under some torn cloth something moved. Jack reached inside carefully and pulled the cloth away. His eyes widened. It was a baby. But not a human baby. Her skin was pale blue, her head slightly bigger than normal. She had small glowing eyes that shimmered like stars, but they were filled with fear and tears. Her tiny body shook in the cold, and her hands reached up, like she was asking to be held. Jack didn't know what to do. "Hey, it's okay," he whispered, his voice shaking. The baby gave a soft whimper and curled up against his hand. Jack gently picked her up, wrapping her in the cloth again. Who would leave a baby like this? He said to himself, looking around. That's when he felt it, eyes watching him. He turned fast, nobody there, but he was sure. Someone was hiding. In the shadows, behind the dumpster, watching. Jack took a step forward. "Hello? Is someone there?" No answer, just the sound of wind and silence. Jack looked down at the baby again. Her breathing was slow but steady now. He could feel her tiny heartbeat against his chest. He couldn't leave her here. She would die. He wrapped her tighter, pulled off his old jacket, and placed it around her like a blanket. Then he walked away, fast, but not running. Behind the dumpster, hidden in the dark, a figure collapsed to her knees. The baby's mother, an alien woman, thin, weak, starving. Her clothes were ripped, her body shaking. She watched the human take her baby away, and she cried silently. But it wasn't sadness. It was relief. She had left her baby in the trash. Not because she didn't love her, but because she had nothing left to give. No food, no milk, not even strength to carry her child. But now, someone had taken her. Someone warm. Maybe her baby had a chance to live. The alien mother fell back, exhausted, and her vision went dark. Back in his small apartment, Jack placed the baby on a soft blanket and turned on the old heater. He boiled some water and tried to clean her carefully. She was dirty, her skin dry, lips cracked. He didn't know anything about alien babies, but he knew how to care. He gave her a drop of water at a time, used a spoon to feed her some warm broth. She coughed at first, but then drank slowly. He looked at her face, and for a moment it almost looked like she smiled. "You're safe now," he whispered. "I don't know who you are, but you're not alone anymore." Suddenly, someone banged on the door downstairs. Jack froze. Could it be someone looking for the baby? He turned off the lights and stepped to the window. No one was there, just an old street dog scratching at the door. Jack sighed, but something still didn't feel right. He felt like this baby was more than just a lost child. There was a story here, a reason she was left in the trash. And maybe someone would come back for her, or come looking for her. He looked down at the baby, who now slept quietly, wrapped in his jacket. Then he made a silent promise to himself. "I won't let anyone hurt you, not again." He didn't know that far. Away in the same alley, the baby's mother lay unconscious, and someone else, someone dangerous, was already tracking the baby's scent. The woman in rags Lyra opened her eyes slowly. Her vision was blurry. Her body ached. Cold ground touched her skin like ice. She didn't know how long she had been lying there behind the dumpster in that filthy alley. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. And then, she remembered the baby, her baby. She shot up with a gasp, but her arms gave out and she fell back down, coughing hard. Her lips were cracked, her belly empty, her limbs thin like sticks. Her bones hurt even when she breathed. Zira, she whispered, barely able to speak her daughter's name. Her mind flashed back to the moment she left her child in the trash. The worst moment of her life. But she had no choice. Zira hadn't eaten in 2 days. Lyra had already tried begging. No one helped, not even her own kind. They all called her cursed, unwanted, a refugee from a lost war. The humans? They spit when they saw her. She had nothing. No food, no water, no hope. So she did the only thing. She kissed her baby's forehead, wrapped her in a broken thermal cloth, whispered one last prayer to the stars, and placed her in the trash where humans sometimes scavenged. She didn't leave her because she gave up. She left her because maybe someone else wouldn't. And then, just before darkness took her, she saw a human man. He lifted the baby gently. He held her like she mattered. Lyra had cried in silence. But now, that image gave her strength. With shaking legs, she stood. Slowly, painfully. One step at a time, leaning against the cold metal wall of the dumpster. She walked. She didn't know his name. She didn't know where he took her child. But she would find her. Jack sat on the edge of his bed, eyes fixed on the tiny alien baby who slept in his blanket. She had calmed down after drinking some water and warm soup. She looked peaceful now. But Jack didn't feel peaceful. He kept replaying that moment, the feeling that someone was watching him, the soft rustle behind the dumpster, the cold air that carried more than just wind. He had seen war, years ago. He had seen aliens both good and bad. But this baby, she wasn't a threat. She was just abandoned, and that haunted him. He picked up an old communicator, dialed someone he hadn't called in months. "Caleb," he whispered. "Jack? Are you drunk or dying?" "No, I found something or someone. A baby. Alien. Abandoned." A pause. "Jack, you know what happens if they find out, right?" "I don't care. She's just a baby." Caleb sighed. "Be careful. The new patrol bots scan for foreign DNA every night. If they catch you, hiding her." "I know," Jack said. "But I think she was left there for a reason, on purpose. Someone wanted her to be found. Or someone wanted to disappear," Caleb said darkly. "Just stay low." Jack ended the call. He looked down. The baby's eyes were open now, staring at him. Big, glowing, innocent. He smiled. "You're safe here." Lyra stumbled across a metal bridge, barely holding herself up. Her stomach growled, and her skin stung from every step. But she didn't stop. Her mind kept repeating one thought. Find the human. Find Zira. As she passed a wall, she heard voices. 2 humans talking outside a cafe. "You hear about the guy near Block 9? Took in something not human. You serious? Swear it. Someone saw him carrying something wrapped like a baby. Block 9. Her eyes widened. She turned, limping down the street. Meanwhile, in Jack's apartment, the baby started crying again. Soft at first, then louder. Jack tried gently rocking her. But she wasn't hungry. She wasn't tired. She was sensing something. Something close. Someone. A weak knock came at the door. Jack stood, alert. His hand reached for the old steel pipe he kept behind the door, just in case. The knock came again, slower, softer. He looked through the cracked peephole. What he saw made his heart stop. A woman. Not human. blue skin, ripped clothing, collapsing from weakness. But her eyes, they were the same as the baby's. He opened the door slowly. She looked up with desperate eyes and whispered, "Zira." Then she fainted. Jack caught her before she hit the ground. He didn't understand her words. But he saw it. The matching eyes, the similar skin tone. The way the baby instantly stopped crying when she sensed the woman's presence. This was the mother. He didn't know her story yet. He didn't know who she was, or what danger might follow her. But he knew one thing. This woman didn't abandon her baby out of hate. She did it out of love. And now, both of them were his responsibility. Shelter of strangers. The old heater buzzed softly in the corner of Jack's small room. The smell of soup and rust mixed in the air. Blankets were spread out across the floor like a makeshift nest. The baby lay bundled in warm cloth near the center. Her breathing was calm now. Beside her, on a thin mattress, the alien woman, Lyra, slept like the dead. Her body had reached its limit. Jack had cleaned her cuts, wrapped her feet, and placed a glass of water nearby. But she hadn't stirred since she collapsed at his doorstep. Jack sat in the corner, leaning against the wall, watching them both. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but something inside him refused to turn them away. He lit a candle and whispered, "They were strangers yesterday. Now they're under my roof. What does that make us?" No one answered, but he already knew. It made them a family of the forgotten. Lyra opened her eyes hours later. She blinked at the strange ceiling, the cracked walls, the faint light of the candle. Her body didn't feel like hers. She was wrapped in cloth. Her hands were clean. There was warmth. And beside her, she turned, and her heart skipped. Zira, her baby, was right there, sleeping peacefully, alive, fed, safe. Lyra covered her mouth as tears filled her eyes. She didn't cry loudly. She had learned to cry silently a long time ago. But this time, the tears were from relief. A deep breath escaped her lips. She looked around the small shelter. Then she saw him, Jack, watching her from the corner. She tensed at first. A male, a human. She didn't know his face. She didn't know his heart. But he didn't speak. He didn't move. He just raised his hand slowly, showing her a simple gesture of peace. Lyra nodded once. No words, just understanding. She touched her baby gently, then closed her eyes again. Morning arrived with heavy rain tapping against the windows. Jack made soup again. It wasn't much, just water, dried beans, and some old spice packets, but it was warm. He sat across from Lyra and slid the bowl gently toward her. She looked at it, then at him. He motioned toward the spoon. "Eat." She picked it up slowly, her hands shaking. The first bite made her eyes water again. Not because of the flavor, but because it was food. Real food. After so long, between bites she tried to speak. "Who? Man?" Jack nodded. "Yes, human. I'm Jack." She pointed to herself. "Ra." He smiled. "Lyra." Then she placed her hand on her chest again. "Lyra." She pointed at the baby. "Zira." "Zira," Jack repeated. "She's strong, like her mom." Lyra looked away, ashamed. "No, I leave her." Jack shook his head. "You saved her. You knew someone might find her. That takes courage." She looked at him, confused by his kindness. Where she came from, humans were the monsters of bedtime stories. The destroyers. The colonizers. But this man, he had done what her own kind had refused to do. He had shared his home, his food, his warmth. That evening, Jack showed her how to use the old water pump. He taught her the words water, food, sleep, and safe. She learned fast. Her species was used to adapting. Years of war had taught them how. Lyra tried to help him clean the place, folding blankets, fixing the baby's corner, sorting out scraps of cloth. She was weak, but determined. Later that night, as Jack cleaned, out a broken crate he found something that shook him, a small data chip. He had seen it before, used by refugees to carry ID, history, or secrets. It was inside the baby's cloth bundle. He showed it to Lyra. Her face froze. No. Show. Bad. They find. Jack looked at her carefully. Who's they? Lyra didn't have enough words to explain. She just said one word, a name. Carnix. Jack's eyes narrowed. He had heard of Carnix. Not a place. A person. A bounty. Hunter. Known across the outer colonies for capturing escaped aliens and selling them back to whoever paid most. Governments, warlords, slave markets, and if Lyra was hiding from Carnix, that meant she was running from more than poverty. She was running from death. Outside across the street, a man in a black coat watched Jack's window through a scanner. A small red dot beeped on his wrist. He smiled coldly. Found you. Back. Inside, Lyra was gently humming to Zira. The tune was soft, like a lullaby from another world. Jack sat quietly watching the two, mother and child, finding peace for the first time in days. But peace never lasts in this kind of world. And in the shadows, danger was already walking closer. Unwanted attention. The next morning, the neighborhood smelled of dust and burnt wires. Rain had stopped, but everything looked damp and tired, like the city itself was sick. Jack stood by the window, sipping the last bit of his stale coffee, eyes locked on a slow-moving patrol bot across the street. The silver drone floated low, its red sensor scanning left and right like a hawk hunting rats. Normally, Jack would have ignored it. But today, something was off. The bot paused outside his building. For too long. And then, it moved on. He felt a cold weight in his stomach. They were sniffing too close. Inside, Lyra was changing Zira's cloth, carefully folding pieces of clean fabric Jack had stitched together. The baby had gained color in her cheeks. She cooed and moved more now, tiny hands gripping everything. It was the first time Lyra smiled without fear. But Jack noticed something in her eyes, a flicker of worry that never fully left. He sat beside her and said, Lyra, you and Zira can stay here. But something's coming. I can feel it. She looked at him and quietly whispered, Carnix no. He find. Jack frowned. He's already looking? Lyra nodded. Carnix, always find. That name again. Jack looked down at Zira, sleeping peacefully between them. She didn't know her world was dangerous yet. She just knew warmth, milk, and her mother's heartbeat. Jack wasn't ready to let that go. Later that afternoon, trouble arrived. Not loud, not violent, just watching. A man stood at the corner near the store. Brown coat, hat too low for the weather. He smoked something black and oily, and every few minutes he looked toward Jack's apartment. Another man circled the block twice, pretending to check flyers on the wall. No one put up flyers anymore. And an old woman sweeping the street? Too many glances through the same broken window. Jack knew these signs. They weren't neighbors, they were watchers. Scouts. Inside, he began packing emergency supplies, cans of soup, water packets, a burner phone, one old ID chip he used during smuggling, runs years ago. Lyra watched him with calm eyes. She didn't panic. She had lived too long in fear to flinch at the first shadow. Instead, she said one word. Run? Jack hesitated. Running meant exposing them. Moving Lyra and Zira outside meant risking checkpoints, cameras, patrols. But staying might be worse. No, he said finally. Not yet. First, we prepare. That night, they practiced silence. Jack showed Lyra how to open the back window silently. how to hide behind the crates downstairs, how to disappear without being followed. Zira, sensing the tension, didn't cry once, as if even she knew. This night was not safe. Around midnight, a soft beep came from Jack's motion sensor. Someone was at the door. Jack picked up the old steel pipe and walked to the peephole. Nothing. He waited. Then, tap, tap, on the window. He turned fast. Opened it an inch. It was Caleb. "Let me in, man, fast." Jack unlocked the window and pulled him inside. Caleb panted, face wet with sweat. "You're being watched, Jack. Real eyes. Not just bots." "I know." "No, you don't. Carnix is in the city." Jack froze. Caleb pulled out a chip. "This is a copy of the alert. He's looking for a female fugitive. Species. Unregistered. Child with her. Last seen near your block." Jack cursed under his breath. Caleb looked around and saw Lyra. Their eyes met. Even he paused at her appearance. Not ugly. Not scary. Just broken. Like someone the world forgot to care about. "I can help," Caleb said quietly. "But you need to move, soon." After Caleb left, Jack turned to Lyra. "Tomorrow night we leave." She nodded. But outside, down the alley behind the building, the man in the brown coat tapped his wrist communicator. "She's here," he whispered. On the other side of the line, a mechanical voice replied, "Do not engage. Carnix wants her, alive." Inside the small apartment, the candle flickered one last time before going out. Darkness filled the room. But it was not silent, because danger was now only one door away. And Jack knew. This was the calm before the storm. Chase in the Shadows night fell like a heavy curtain. The streetlights outside Jack's apartment flickered, glitching as if even the electricity was nervous. A cold wind slipped through the cracks in the walls. Inside, the room was dark, silent, breathless. Jack sat at the table, hands pressed together, staring at the doorway. He wasn't praying. He was planning. Across from him, Lyra sat with Zira on her lap. The baby was quiet, unusually so, like she could sense the danger in the air. Jack stood up. "We move tonight," he whispered. Lyra didn't ask where. She simply nodded. The back exit was rarely used. A rusty metal staircase led down into a narrow alley filled with old crates and dripping pipes. Jack opened the door slowly, listening. Silence. No footsteps. No voices. But he didn't trust silence anymore. He helped Lyra strap Zira close to her chest using cloth from his old jacket. He handed her a flashlight, then grabbed his bag. Inside, food, water, a stolen access pass, and the data chip he found with Zira. "Stick to the shadows," he said. "Follow me. If I stop, you stop." Lyra met his eyes. "Okay." Then they stepped into the night. The city wasn't asleep. It was watching. Jack led them through side alleys, past broken vending machines and shattered hollow screens. Neon signs blinked in alien languages, but most buildings were dark. The rich had moved. Uptown. Down here, only the desperate remained. As they crossed an abandoned train yard, Jack paused. His instinct screamed. He turned his head slowly, left, then right. Nothing. But his breath caught. On the rooftop above them, a red lens flickered once. He grabbed Lyra's hand and hissed, "Run!" They darted across the yard, boots crunching old glass, shadows slipping past old cargo crates. A loud mechanical thump echoed behind them. Carnix had arrived. The bounty hunter dropped from a rooftop like a ghost in armor. 7 feet tall. Jet black. Gear. His face covered in a glowing mask. No eyes. Just a voice that buzzed like static. "You shouldn't have interfered, human." Jack turned and aimed his stolen flashbeam right at Carnix's visor. The beam blasted white light. Carnix staggered back. "Now, Lyra!" Jack shouted. They ran. Lyra clutched Zira tightly, legs burning as she followed Jack down a maintenance tunnel, beneath the old tram lines. Water dripped from the ceiling. Rats scattered in the dark. Zira whimpered once. Lyra pressed a kiss to her forehead. Shh, my star. Quiet now. Behind them, metal footsteps echoed. Carnix was close, too close. Jack stopped at a sealed metal gate. He pulled out a rusty keycard and slid it through the reader. Red light. Again, red. He cursed. Come on, you piece of green. The gate hissed open. Go, go, go. They slipped through. Jack slammed. It shut behind them. He reached for the lock lever, but Carnix's metal hand grabbed the gate just in time. Jack looked through the bars. The bounty hunter's mask lit up. Give her to me, and I'll let you live. Jack didn't blink. He grinned. Wrong guy. Then he slammed the lever. Electric current shot through the gate. Carnix roared, stumbling back from the shock. Jack didn't wait. He turned and ran. The tunnel led them to a hidden service lift, an old one Jack used years ago during black market runs. It was slow and loud, but it still worked. The platform groaned as it rose. Jack's chest heaved with every breath. Lyra leaned against the wall, holding Zira tightly. She okay? He asked. Lyra nodded. She's strong. Jack smiled through the sweat. Just like her mother. They emerged in the ruins of an old shopping plaza. Broken mannequins, dusty shelves, silence, but they weren't safe. Not yet. Jack reached into his bag and pulled out the last trick, a signal jammer. He pressed the button. For 5 minutes, they were ghosts. Invisible to drones, hidden from scanners. Rest here, he said. Lyra sat, gently rocking her daughter. Jack looked out through the shattered glass wall. Rain had started again, falling in soft sheets over the dead city. But this time he didn't feel helpless. He felt alive. Far behind them, Carnix stood in the tunnel, smoke rising from his gauntlet. His visor flickered. He looked at the gate, then at the trail of footprints, and smiled. This is getting fun. A human heart. The old plaza was a graveyard of forgotten dreams, shattered glass, collapsed beams, broken neon signs that once said, sail, love, welcome. Now, only silence remained, and the sound of rain tapping gently through a cracked roof. Jack lit a small fire inside a hollowed-out clothing store. He piled bricks around it for safety and covered the broken windows with scrap cloth. It wasn't perfect, but for now, it was home. Lyra sat near the fire, rocking Zira gently in her arms. The baby had fallen asleep again, her chest rising softly. A little glow still shimmered faintly in her veins. Jack watched them from across the fire. He had risked his life for these two, and he didn't regret a single second. You tired? He asked. Lyra looked at him and shook her head slowly. No. Mind loud. Jack chuckled. Yeah, me too. There was a long pause. Then Lyra spoke again. Why you help? He looked into the flames for a moment, then answered. When I was 12, I saw my little sister die. Lyra blinked. War? Jack nodded. Yeah. She got caught in the middle. Just a kid. Just like your Zira. I couldn't do anything. Couldn't save her. I promised myself. If I ever had the chance, again I wouldn't run. Lyra stared at him, quiet. I don't see aliens, Jack said, pointing to his chest. I see people, I see pain. I see someone trying to save her baby. Lyra's lips trembled slightly. She looked down at Zira. Then with shaking hands, she reached into her coat and pulled something out, a folded piece of silver cloth. Inside it, a tiny charm carved from blue crystal. She handed it to Jack. He took it gently. What is it? He asked. Heartstone, she whispered. From my world. We give to those we trust. Jack stared at the charm. It shimmered when he touched it like it was alive with warmth. You trust me? He asked softly. Lyra nodded. You give hope. I give heart. Jack smiled. tired but genuine. In that broken mall, surrounded by ruins and memories, a bond was forged, not between human and alien, but between two hearts. Later, Jack gave Lyra his old coat and helped her make a warm spot for the baby using store blankets. Zira began to babble quietly, her first sounds of play. Lyra giggled softly. Jack watched her laugh for the first time. It was soft, like light returning to a dark room. But outside, darkness hadn't left. Not far from the plaza, Karnik stood on a rooftop staring at the trail. He had picked up Lyra's scent again. He didn't rush. He enjoyed the chase. But this wasn't just about money anymore. It was personal. That night, as the fire burned low, Jack and Lyra sat beside each other. Zira was asleep between them, curled up like a little star. Jack stared at the ceiling, remembering the city as it once was, bright, loud, full of life. Now, all he had was this moment. This isn't going to last, he said finally. Lyra nodded. I know. They'll find us. Karnix doesn't stop. Lyra turned to him. Then we don't stop either. He looked at her, really looked. For the first time, he didn't just see a woman who had lost everything. He saw someone stronger than most soldiers he knew. You're a fighter, he said. Lyra smiled sadly. Only when I hold something worth fighting for. Jack glanced down at Zira, then back at Lyra. Yeah, me too. Suddenly, crack, a sound from outside. Jack grabbed the steel pipe. Lyra pulled Zira close. Footsteps, 1, 2. Then silence. Jack moved like a shadow to the edge of the window. Peeking through a ripped curtain, nothing. Then, tap, tap, on the glass behind them. Jack spun, heart racing. But it wasn't Karnix. It was Caleb, wet, breathless, holding a bloody cloth to his arm. Jack opened the door fast. Caleb, what happened? They're here, Caleb gasped. Not just Karnix. He brought enforcers, private ones, like a damn army. Jack pulled him inside. They found out she has the Heartstone, Caleb whispered. Jack froze. What does that mean? Caleb's eyes narrowed. That stone isn't just a symbol, Jack, it's a royal marker. She's not just any refugee. He turned to Lyra. She's nobility. Lyra looked away, ashamed, silent. Caleb leaned closer. That child, she's the last of a bloodline they want erased. Jack understood now why Karnix hunted them, why no one helped her, why she had to hide her baby in the trash, because this wasn't about poverty, it was about power. Jack stood tall. If they want her, they'll have to come through me. Lyra stood beside him. And me. Jack looked down at Zira. She blinked open her glowing eyes, a soft, innocent smile. A human heart in an alien child. One last escape. The city was no longer hiding its hunger. Gunships hummed over rooftops. Patrol lights swept through broken buildings like giant red eyes searching for prey. Speakers barked warnings in 5 languages. Surrender illegal biologicals, or face penalty under Section 9. But Jack wasn't surrendering, not tonight. He stood in the center of the ruined plaza, loading the last battery cell into an old energy launcher Caleb brought him. Not military grade, but enough to stall an enemy. Across the fire, Lyra held Zira to her chest. Her hands trembled slightly, but her eyes were calm. She had made peace with the truth. She was born, noble, hunted, disgraced, tossed aside. But now, she had something more powerful than a title. She had something to live for. Caleb limped into the plaza, dropping a small bag. There's a sewer route 2 blocks east. Leads to the refugee tunnels near the ridge. Jack nodded. You coming with us? Caleb shook his head. I'll cover your exit. You're the one they're after. I'm just background noise. Lyra looked at him and softly said, Thank you, human. He smiled. You can call me Caleb, makes me sound more important. Outside, boots slammed against pavement. Karnix had arrived. Not just with enforcers, he brought hunter-class drones, canine bots, and a crawler tank. He was done playing games. He wanted Zira, alive or dead. Jack helped Lyra into a stolen cloak. Zira was already tucked close to her chest, a pulse blanket wrapped around the baby to block scans. Then he handed Lyra a tracker. This will guide you to the exit tunnel. Stay low. Move fast. Don't stop no matter what. She held his hand tightly. You come? Jack looked at her, at the strength in her face, the courage behind tired eyes. I'll slow them down. Lyra shook her head, tears forming. I no go without you. Jack smiled gently. You have to. If they catch all three of us, it's over. But if one of us stays... He didn't finish the sentence, he just placed her hand over his heart. You saved her, let me return the favor. Outside, Carnix's boots echoed across the plaza. He raised his hand. Alive. I want the child alive. The hunters moved in. Inside, the mall. Jack kissed Zira's forehead. She giggled softly. Then he turned to Lyra, and for the first time since they met, they hugged. Not in fear, not in pain, but in something far deeper. Trust. Lyra whispered, You are more than just human. Jack laughed softly, And you're more than just alien. Then he turned and walked into the firelight. Lyra disappeared into the shadows, holding her child, following the path. Jack stood in the open, facing Carnix, just like the first time they met. But this time, no fear. Jack, Carnix said through his mask, voice like crackling metal. You're starting to annoy me. Good, Jack said. Means I'm doing something right. Carnix raised his weapon. Where is she? Jack pointed behind him. Far away from you. The bounty hunter stepped forward. You can't protect her forever. Jack smiled. I don't have to. I just have to protect her tonight. Then he triggered the trap. Boom. The floor beneath. Carnix collapsed. Caleb's final trick. A hole wired with explosives. The crawler tank behind him rolled into the sinkhole with a grinding screech. The plaza exploded into chaos. Jack ran. In the tunnels, Lyra reached the escape gate. It was rusted. Shut she pulled, pushed nothing. Zira whimpered. Then, she heard it. Footsteps. Not Jack's. Metal ones. Behind her. She turned, heart racing. Carnix's drone, smaller than him, faster, slipped through the darkness like a shadow. Lyra held Zira close. The drone aimed, but before it could fire, bang! Beam shot through its eye. The drone sparked and collapsed behind it. Jack, bloody, breathing hard, still standing. Lyra rushed to him. He dropped to his knees. I told you not to stop, he gasped, coughing. I did, because you came, she said, holding his face. He smiled weakly. Well, I've never been good at goodbyes. They pushed the gate together. This time, it opened. The tunnel beyond was cold, long, and narrow. But at the end, light. Freedom, safety, a hidden colony of off-grid settlers, human and alien alike. Those who didn't care about bloodlines, only survival. Jack collapsed just past the gate. Lyra screamed. A healer rushed over. Jack grabbed her hand. Lyra, take her. Raise her strong. Make her better than us, Lyra cried. No, you come too. Jack shook his head slowly. I'll always be with her. With you. His hand slipped, his eyes closed. Silence. 2 years later, a peaceful farming village on a green moon. Zira ran through a garden, laughing, her glowing hair dancing in the wind. She wore a necklace, a blue crystal heart. Lyra stood on the porch, watching. Stronger now. Peaceful. But beside her, on the wall, hung a photo. A human man. Smiling. Wearing an old patched jacket. Below it, carved into the wood. He didn't see species. He saw souls.